Hi boys and girls, and welcome to your video on one-step equations for the flipped classroom. In this video, I'm going to go over each type of one-step equation, and I'm going to have you fill out your guided notes as you go through the video. If at any time you need to pause the video, you may do so to fill out your notes, and you can also rewind the video to help reinforce some of the topics. So the first thing that I want to point out is that an unknown is also the same as a variable. We can use multiple different types of letters to represent a variable. You'll often see the variable as the letter X. It can also be represented in other forms such as Y, Z, the letter A. Any letter can represent a variable. So let's first start off by talking about inverse operations. If you can recall from class, the inverse operations are the opposite, and the inverse operations also undo each other. So for example, the inverse of addition is subtraction, and vice versa. The opposite of subtraction is addition. The inverse of multiplication is division, and the inverse of division is multiplication. So let's go into the different types of equations. The first one is addition equations. An example of an addition equation looks like this. So x represents our variable, plus 5 is equal to 12. We want to balance each side of the equal sign. So we're going to use inverse operations to do so. The first thing I want you to do is draw a line down the equal sign to show the balance of the two sides. What I do to one side of the equation, I must do to the other side. The inverse of adding 5 is subtracting 5. So I'm going to subtract 5 to both sides of my equal sign. Because I subtract 5 from 5, they cancel out. So I'm left with my variable x is equal to 12 minus 5, which is 7. Let's look at another example. This equation is different than the last example because the variable is on the other side of the equal sign. But our process is still going to be the same. Again, as a strategy, draw a line down the equal sign to show the balance between the two sides. The inverse operation of adding 3 is subtracting 3. Whoops. So I'm going to subtract 3 to both sides of my equal sign. So on this side, I'm left with x is equal to 16 minus 3, which is 13. Let's look at a subtraction equation. X minus 9 is equal to 15. I'm going to draw my line down the middle. The inverse operation of subtracting 9 is adding 9. So I'm going to add 9 to both sides of my equal sign. The 9's cancel, so I'm left with x is equal to 15 plus 9, which is 24. Again, the same concept if the variable's on the other side of the equation. So again, the inverse of subtracting 4 is adding 4 to both sides. I'm really good at this inking thing. So we're left with x is equal to 45 plus 4, which equals 49. Now let's move on to multiplication equations. You know it's a multiplication equation when a number and a variable are next to each other. They're being multiplied. So 3x means 3 times some number is equal to 39. So the inverse operation of multiplication is division. So I'm going to divide both sides by 3. My 3's cancel out, so I'm left with x is equal to 39 divided by 3, which is 13. Again, the x or the variable can be on the other side. The concept is still the same. I'm going to divide both sides by 11 because the variable is being multiplied by 11. My 11's cancel out because the variable is on this side of the equal sign. So 33 divided by 11 is 3. The last type of equation is division equations. And we know that this is a division equation because of our fraction bar. Fractions mean division. So some number divided by 9 is equal to 2. The inverse operation of division is multiplication. So I'm going to multiply 9 times 2. Or I'm going to multiply 9 to both sides of my equal sign. So in this case, I'm left with x is equal to 9 times 2, which is 18. One more example with the variable on the other side of the equal sign. Again, our fraction bar means division. So the inverse operation of division is multiplication. So I'm going to multiply 5 to both sides of my equal sign. Five times 5 is 25. So x is equal to 25. Okay, this concludes your video on one-step equations. If you have any questions, you can go back and rewind the video. This video will also be available to you all year long. So if you need help with any one-step equations, you can refer to it. All right, have a great rest of the day.